You're listening to the 40 Fit Radio podcast, dedicated to the 40-plus community. Join us as we discuss the truth about fitness and health using science, reason, and the experiences of our host and content experts. Welcome to the 40 Fit Nation. Hey, welcome back to the 40 Fit Radio podcast, and welcome back to the 40 Fit Nation. I'm your host, Coach D, and I've also got Coach Trent here.
Good morning, y'all.
And we are live in the 40 Fit Radio podcast.
Actually, live from Keller, Texas.
Live. So today...
Wait, why are we Fort Worth Strength and Conditioning when we're in Keller, Texas? Yeah.
It's a long story, but basically,
Fort Worth sounds cooler, doesn't it?
Well, when I used to own my CrossFit gyms, we were CrossFit Fort Worth. And when I was in more like North Fort Worth area, it was called Fort Worth Strength and Conditioning. So when we moved back up to Keller, which is, by the way, where I've lived forever, Northwestern Hills, Keller area, we decided to leave the name as it is. Why? Because Fort Worth's cool. Keller's cool too. But we are Fort Worth Strength and Conditioning at its Keller location.
Yeah.
There we go.
I like it.
But we are actually, we office, Trent and I, the podcast office or studio is in the front office of the gym. And this gym, Fort Worth Strength and Conditioning, is a Starting Strength affiliate. And we train people here to lift barbells, get strong, get lean, stay healthy, basically. And today we're going to talk about on the podcast, how strong is strong enough? And this is a really interesting topic that I could probably talk for hours on, just having this conversation among coaches, among trainees, among friends, whoever, physician colleagues that I practice with in my practices, and my fellow DPTs. But how strong is strong enough? And I know that that question really has to be answered by what is the desired outcome? What is the need outside of that question? And for many people, that's different. For many trainees, for many of our listening audience, that's different. So, how strong is strong enough? What do you think, Trent? How strong is strong enough?
I think that for most people, the answer is they won't be strong enough. There is no strong enough for them because they'll never get to that point where they've truly become strong, or in other words, where they've truly kind of reached not their maximum genetic potential, but they've kind of started to get up towards that line. So we've talked about before the graph, right? What that might look like. So as you train, you get stronger and stronger. The graph is very linear and it's upward sloping.
Right.
Very steep, and then it starts to taper off and it gets flatter and flatter and flatter. Most people never get to the point where that inflection occurs where you start to really flatten out.
Right. Most people won't reach the maximum genetic potential.
That's right. So
they're not training with true strength training program principles to be able to yield that kind of strength gain.
That's right. So I think that we have to say for the general public that there is no strong enough. But for those people that we work with day to day that are actually training for strength,
right.
I think it has to do with do you have any competitive aspirations? Because if you do, that's going to be a different answer.
Sure.
And number two, I think that there's probably a number. I hate to say one because I don't want people to define themselves by a number. But, if you're a guy and you're 40 plus and you're squatting, we've said this before, if you're squatting 3 wheels, you're squatting 315 for 3 sets of 5, I think that's strong enough for life.
Yeah, I would probably say, I think that's a good way to look at that. I think if we take, first the desired outcome, we could probably clarify this or quantify this into different groups, different subsets of types of people. You have people that want to get stronger just for general life.
Right.
You have people that want to get stronger for a chosen sport. And you have people that want to get stronger merely for the characteristics that being strong, looking strong, more aesthetic type characteristics. I think those all three there can be some merger of all three of those in regards to where a person stands in their desired outcome. But let's face it, most people that we train are not going to be competitors.
Right.
They're going to be And I use the term average, but I think that the people that we train are very above average because they're not average.
Absolutely.
But when we're talking about our cohorts, our population of trainees, most people that train in our gym or that train in the field of strength training or in gyms like starting strength gyms or similar gyms to that, even some CrossFit gyms, those people are above average. So when we talk about that population, how strong is strong enough? And I think that is a question that has to be filled or answered based on the desired outcome. But it's also a question that, even though it sounds kind of goofy, it's, well, why are you talking about how strong is strong? No amount of strength is strong enough. I mean, you got to be stronger, But let's face it, this is a common challenge for coaches. This is what we perceive on our end,
right,
with trainees who have gotten really strong for their age, especially when we're talking about our 40-plus population. And at some point, they get close to their maximum genetic potential. They might not be quite there yet because
right,
they're not competing necessarily. They're just general fitness trainees, but they're really, really strong for their age and their size, and their athletic ability. And at some point they kind of hit a wall. And then we ask ourselves, how strong is strong enough? When I think about numbers, I would probably, I don't know if I would put a weight number on that, like 315. I mean, 3 wheels is, if any guy can squat 3 wheels for reps, that's reasonably strong.
Yeah.
But it really would matter what his body weight is. If he weighs 315 and he can squat 315 for reps, then it's really not. So I'd kind of think about it this way. If it's a 40-plus male, if a 40-plus male could deadlift twice his body weight, squat 1.75 times his body weight, press his body weight, and bench press 1.25 times his body weight, that's a reasonable strength level.
Sure.
For females, and I'm not using these as absolutes by any means, but for females, if a female could squat 1.5 times her, 1.5 times her body weight, deadlift 1.75 times her body weight, press 75% of her body weight, and bench press maybe close to 100% of her body weight, then that's a reasonable strength level that person can do anything they want to do in life and in general fitness.
That's right.
And they're probably going to be maintaining a fairly high level of lean mass for the types of things that we've talked about when it comes to quality of aging, maintaining metabolic rate, keeping good lean mass on their frame, looking younger, feeling younger, balancing hormones, and just being generally able,
right,
and fit. So, I think those are reasonable numbers.
Absolutely. Yeah, and of course, you have to temper all that with it. So if you're sitting there like, wow, man, I'm not even close to one of those numbers. Well, you have to temper that with it's different if you're 45 versus 75.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, those numbers continue to decline over time.
Exactly. Also, it's different. If you're got a super long legs, you're a very long femored individual, you may not hit that squat number. You might well exceed that deadlift number.
Yeah, right? That's a total generalization.
Yeah, so it's a generalization.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. So really what we're talking about here is that in order to reach your maximum genetic potential or close to it, right, there's a compromise that has to be made for most people, right? And that compromise comes in the form of muscle tissue is adapting to the loads that we continue to lift in a strength progression. But at some point, that muscle adaptation outpaces connective tissue adaptation. And for most people, there's going to be a compromise between getting a little beat up in their joints and their connective tissue versus continuing to put weight on the bar.
Yeah, and I think that's a conversation we're going to have just here in a second. That's a great point. I think that when you think about it, like you said, we could talk about most of the general population and say the large majority of people over the age of 40 are under strength.
Yes.
And Rip talks about this, the founder of Starting Strength, he talks about this a lot. And he really pushes strength. And starting strength coaches like I am, and Trent's an intern, and we all talk about the fact that strength is the number one goal.
Right.
And whether I was a starting strength coach or not, when I was a CrossFit coach, I thought that strength was the number one goal.
Yeah, it made sense to you, right?
Yeah. My gym was a more strength focused gym, and we did barbell lifts on a regular basis. In a methodical method, not in a random method. And so in a progressive method. But I think that when you think about when you make this statement to the average public, then you have to say that never enough strength is enough strength because they're all going to be under strength.
That's right.
And so you're hoping that by making that statement and really getting a little bit of a shock factor, shock and awe out there, that they will at least gain enough strength to be functional throughout their life through the aging process.
Right.
What I see, by and large, in the older population, and I treated a bunch of patients yesterday, and I had a gentleman that's 77 years old, and he can't stand up from a average height chair without the use of his arms. That's not strong enough.
That's right. Yeah.
I had to use a 4-inch wedge, elevation wedge or step, to elevate his hips up high enough so he'd have enough leverage to stand without the use of his arms. That's not strong enough. And that is what happens to the average general population.
Right.
So our goal is to gain you enough strength when you're younger that lean mass is there, and then it's to slow that decline down over time of strength loss to the minimum rate of decline possible. I mean, a great example would be, look at Frank Sanders this weekend.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
This guy's 67 years old.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I think he's in the, I think he may be in the 72 and a half kilo or 80.
Yeah, he's not a big guy. He's maybe 5'7".
And he's in the 80. I can't remember which
maybe
weight
like a
class
180 something pounds.
No, I don't even think he's that.
Maybe 165.
I think he's 165, 170 maybe.
Yeah.
But this guy deadlifts 4.5, way in the high 400s.
Yeah.
Squats in the 300s. He's not pressing very much right now because of a bad left shoulder. Shoulders bone on bone.
Right.
But, his hips and legs, that's strong enough for him. But he needs more strength because he is a competitor.
Right.
And so in his case, stronger is needed to be more competitive, even though he won all the open masters class.
Right.
The freaking Wilkes score.
Yeah.
But
he's got a big boost there with the Wilkes score.
Yeah.
He deserves it. We love Frank.
Yeah. Oh, Frank is an amazing
cool guy.
ex-Navy SEAL, just an amazing person, tough as nails.
Yeah, shameless plug. We did an interview with Frank Sanders on the Barbell Logic podcast. If you want to hear his story, he's a crazy man. But
awesome guy. But I think that's a great example that for Frank, stronger is needed for him to maintain his competitiveness and definitely get his upper body lifts up so he can get his total up. But then there's a guy like Corey, who's a trainee in our gym. Mm-hmm. He's, I think Corey is 40.
Yeah, late 40s, 50.
He's not 50. Yeah. No, I'm much older than him. But I think he's like 47, 48-ish. And Corey is about 200 pounds-ish. Mm-hmm. And he's squatting for working sets in the mid-threes. He's pressing. What's he pressing? Like one?
I think he ran out his novice progression somewhere at 165.
Yeah, 165
for 3 sets
for reps.
Yep.
He's deadlifting. What was his deadlift?
Last deadlift was 385.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a reasonable level of strength. Now Corey's a banker. Mm-hmm. Corey is never going to go out and compete necessarily, even though I've done CrossFit competitions with Corey in the past as a partner. Amazing athlete, great engine, metabolic capacity, and reasonably strong. But for his quality of life and his lifestyle and his schedule as a president of a bank, how much stronger does he need to be? And also, as a coach, should we be listening to his reports of how your joints feeling? How does your connective tissue feeling? Because what I find with older trainees is that they can get stronger and stronger and stronger over time. It's generally the connective tissue tie-ins and the cartilage and the tendons and ligaments that really start barking at them as these loads get heavier and heavier and heavier. And we have to then start kind of ebb and flowing their program so that we don't overtrain the connective tissue, because that's where the injury is going to occur.
Yeah, and in Corey's specific case, and this is really common, is that low bar squat position that we prefer to use. It's a big stretch on the bicep tendon, and especially when you have when the loads get really heavy, and he's like, he said on his heavy days he's squatting in the mid threes. That's even just a little bit of variation in his grip during the squat, which easy to happen. The elbows come up a little bit coming out the bottom of the squat. That's such a huge stretch in the bicep tendon that can inflame that thing, and then now you've got 2 weeks of a really sore bicep tendon, which is going to impact everything else that you're doing too. And so it seems like the tolerance for something going wrong, even just a little bit in the lifts, gets
Well,
very narrow.
the margin
gets smaller.
Yeah, as the loads get bigger in relationship to the person's overall maximum genetic potential, and as the volume and the intensity gets higher, I won't say the potential for injury. I don't know if you could correlate that the potential for injury risk increase.
No. I think I'm talking about aches and pains.
But form
right?
creep, aches and pains, those kinds of things become more common. Just completing this cycle up to nationals this last weekend, I competed in nationals, USSF nationals. And I'll tell you, the week before, I felt pretty beat up. I feel great today. I felt great a Sunday, which was 2 days ago, after the competition, because I think I peaked kind of right at the right time.
Yeah.
And but it was all that volume and intensity over the course of the months and weeks and leading up to the competition. So I should have felt the most beat up at the first of that week, and the best by Saturday, hopefully.
Right.
And pretty dang good today, because to be honest with you, it's 9 reps. Yeah, they're maximum reps, but really only 6 of those reps out of the lifts or max lifts. The other 3 openers you can consider almost working loads in some case.
Right.
And so it really wasn't, it's not that much volume. It's more intensity, but not that much volume. So I feel great today. But then I have to ask myself, just like we've done with Corey and some of these other trainees, and we have a 67-year-old trainee who's a female, Beth, and how strong is strong enough for her? She's getting really crazy strong for her age and size, her body weight. But at the same, she's deadlifting her body weight now. And at 67, that's pretty cool. But I think we can make her reasonably stronger, still keep her joint health as a primary concern, and her connective tissue health is a primary concern. So I think there's a balance there. And it's the same with me. I kind of decided, well, I'm going to taper off a little bit now. I'm going to still barbell train every week, but I'm not going to a competition anytime soon. So I'm going to cycle down on my strength progression a little bit. I'm going to focus on a little bit of conditioning and work on some more mobility through my strength training, and work on getting reasonably stronger, but slowing the progression down quite a bit. So I think there's a balance there. But really, when we talk about how strong is strong enough, we want all of our trainees to feel healthy.
Yes.
Now,
yeah.
when we have a trainee that's competing for something, whether it be a strength meet or a triathlon or a marathon or a run or a CrossFit event or whatever they're doing, might be a ruck, like one of these, or one of these mud runs or something like that. Whatever sport they're in, chosen to compete in, then they may feel a little beat up right before the sport, because we're peaking their performance so that they can do their best. And that is if they want to be competitive. If they don't want to necessarily be competitive and they do sport really, or competitions just for the sake of having a goal, and they work their training towards that, then they might actually be, based on their desire and their drive, a low enough competitive threshold that we're not beating them up too hard.
Right.
But if you took a guy like Corey and said, hey, we're going to do a strength meet, he's going to drive it to its maximum progression right before the strength meet. He's going to let us do whatever we want to do. So we have to look at, how do we balance that? Because I think our population is at an age where, I'm driven to compete. I'm still a competitor. I love competing. I don't want to beat the guy that's in my weight class. I want to crush him.
Right.
I want to dominate it. I don't want to just beat him. I want to crush him. And I have to sometimes tamper that back a little bit with the idea that I want to be reasonably strong and fit and look good for the rest of my life too.
Right.
And I've gotten to the point at my age, in my 50s, where crushing him's important, but it's not quite as important as it used to be. I hate to say that, but that's true.
You still want to be able to squat when you're 65.
Yeah. And I think if you ask older trainees now, if you asked older guys, what would you do differently? I think some of them would not say that they wouldn't compete and wouldn't compete as hard, but they might be a little smarter about how they compete.
Yeah.
And I think that's important in our training model when we think about how strong is strong enough.
Yes.
So I'd love to do a podcast with a roundtable with other strength coaches, with guys like Matt and Scott and Rip and whoever, and see what their take is on this. And basically, I think we use the statement in general, like I said earlier in the podcast, with the general population, we have to make the assumption that there is no level of strength that's strong enough. because they're also under strength. If you walked into a gym today and you had 10 40-year-old males or 10 40-year-old females, very few of them could probably squat their body weight in a clean squat, once they were taught in a clean squat with 3 sets of 5.
That's
or for
right.
a female, 5 sets of 3, whatever it is.
Right.
Because they're just not strong enough. They've
Yeah.
lost enough strength mass, strength capacity over time that they're just not strong enough. So with that population, I think we kind of lay that statement out there
Right.
that you're not strong enough. And they would look at you and say, like a male might be a 185-pound male, and he says, I can squat 205 for reps.
Right.
To us, that's not very strong. So he's moving basically his body mass weight a little bit more.
One of the best arguments, and this is not my argument, I'm taking it from the starting strength community. I don't know where this first started, but the acquisition of strength has been compared to putting money in a 401k.
Yeah,
right?
sure. It's an investment.
I think that's one of the best arguments because, stuff happens in life, right? Regardless of how healthy we live, how well we train, how well we pay attention to our nutrition and, our recovery and all that kind of stuff happens, right? You have to get surgeries. A great example that our friend Scott Hambrick mentioned the other day is, his dad had to go to the hospital. I think he got pneumonia, right? And so his dad was squatting to a box for, I want to say like 225 maybe. And when he got out of his week-long stay in the hospital, he's squatting with the empty bar, right?
Yeah.
And that's, he's an older guy, so that's just what happens, right? He's going to detrain a lot faster than a younger person. But you think about it, right? How strong is strong enough for him? Well, what if he didn't have a 225 squat? What if he had a 135 squat?
He wouldn't be able to get up from a chair without the use of his arms.
That's right.
I mean, the decline is so quick. And we see that in our older trainees. If I have a 50-plus-year-old trainee that leaves the gym for a week to 2 weeks for vacation and comes back in to train, I have to significantly deload him or her. If it's a female, I have to really deload her. If it's a him, I have to deload him too. But yeah, I mean, the strength declines fairly quickly. So what we're trying to do is build the base,
right.
Build the foundation. The other thing that does is that exponentially improves the 10 general physical skills.
Yes.
You have very few balance problems with individuals that are reasonably strong. You have very few agility problems with people that are reasonably strong. So forth, endurance problems, stamina, all those, outside of a disease process, a metabolic disease or pulmonary disease or something like that, then strength really is the hitch pin or the keystone, the foundation of human performance. And when I mean performance, I mean quality of life.
Right.
And so, like you're saying, we want to build that strength base to the highest level possible before someone's joints start barking at us.
Because
that's kind of what I use.
You're going to have to write checks on that someday.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
And so, but it's just like life, right? We can go crazy saving money, right?
Right.
And how much do you need in your 401k? I don't know.
Right.
It depends on you, right? You need $1 million, $2 million, $5 million,
Right.
$10 million. There is a logical point at which you've saved so much money, right? If you had it, right? You've acquired so much that you can't spend it.
Or you could have worked so hard that you had no time to enjoy it along the way.
Exactly.
And now you're way out of balance. Your quality of life has actually declined because you spent so much time doing nothing but making a living. And it's the same way where you might be training so hard that you have a hard time getting out of bed because your joints hurt so bad.
Right. And that's where we talk about, we mentioned this before, there's a difference between health and fitness.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very possible to be very fit and not really that healthy.
Well, when you think about a professional sports player, NFL player, you can't compare this to baseball maybe, but NFL player, NBA player, I mean, those guys, when they're in their 50s, they walk like an old man, and females in professional sports world, it's the same way because they give so much of their capacity in their early years, and their connective tissue and their articular cartilage, their joint cartilage is just trash. And so they have early arthritic signs and things like that. But there is no correlation, and we've done some of the research, especially using the squat as the movement model. My business partner and colleague, Dr. Tina Newworth, as part of her doctorate work, did a study on the squat. And does the squat under heavy loads produce higher arthritic levels or higher knee problems than someone who is not squatting at all, general population? as a cohort study? And the answer to that question is no. It doesn't. There's no correlation between weightlifting and lifting weights. And if there's anything, there's a correlation to improved quality of life, improved lean mass, improved function, and better happiness too. So,
Right.
So I think when we have this conversation about how strong is strong enough, number one, we're going to look at what the desired outcome or goal is: general life and fitness or competition.
Right.
Number two, it's going to be dependent upon age, based on how the person is getting older and older and older. No matter what, we are going to try to maintain the maximum quantity of strength at that age. But it's both qualitative and quantitative,
Right.
both. And then the last thing is we're going to always guide that trainee to ensure that as coaches that we're reaching their goals, and at the same time balancing that with the fact that we want them to be healthy and enjoy life and not not overtrain too.
Right.
So,
It's kind of like it's kind of like one of the classic saying, like, if you have to ask, right? If you have to ask if you're strong enough, you're probably not. Strong enough. Okay.
Yes, it's true.
But I think we've made that point pretty well here. I think, you can look at this also as a question of opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, we've been talking about a lot of competitors, and it's easy to look at the extremes, right? Yeah, professional athlete, right? You do give up a lot. There's a big sacrifice required for that, but you get a lot for it too, right? You're competing at the highest level, all that kind of thing. But what about the person who's just, maybe wants to be casually competitive, or maybe somebody who just wants to do other physical activities? And one thing we haven't touched on yet is, you've only got so much recovery available, right? And because of that, what I find is that barbell training starts off taking a decent amount of recovery resources, right? Mm-hmm. And then as you get stronger and stronger and stronger, it takes more and more and more. Your recovery, your total capacity goes up in the same time. But you get to a point where pushing strength, it takes up all of your recovery resources. And so if you want to do something else in life, which most of us do, right? You want to be a little conditioned so you can go out and do a bike race every once in a while or whatever it is. Now, all of a sudden, it's an opportunity cost question, right? It's
right.
If I barbell train, I could do this, but I need to devote all of my recovery resources to this, because otherwise I'm going to start getting beat up, right? That's that overtraining problem that creeps in. So that's where I think most people probably are wanting to look is, okay, what other kind of physical activities do I want to do, even if it's not competition?
Right.
And
right.
Let's look at my recovery resources. And if you want to go do some conditioning, heavy physical activity, great, go do it.
Right.
But know that you're going to have to carve out some recovery resources, and that means you're going to have to take it. There's no free lunch here, right? You're going to have to kind of drop out a little bit of that strength training in order to give yourself recovery for the metabolic events.
Yeah, and I think about, when we think about our listening audience, you guys out there that are listening to this podcast, we've got people that do yoga as their primary form of exercise. We've got people that do CrossFit. We've got people that do barbell strength training as their primary exercise model. We've got people that do endurance events, they're runners or triathletes or they're biathletes, whatever. But we've got all sorts of different people out there. I would say this, I can generally apply to all you guys out there, on the general population, all of you need to be barbell training. Mm-hmm. Whether you're doing yoga or you're doing endurance training, if you're a runner and you're a male and you can't squat at least, especially as a 40-year-old male, and you can't squat, 1.5 times to 2 times your body weight, you're under strength. Now, if you're a high-end competitive runner, some of your strength may be lost to the fact that you're crazy fast, but we still want to make you reasonably stronger.
Right.
So no matter what your chosen sport or your chosen, I'm going to use the term exercise model or training model is, your type, we would apply these same standards to anyone out there. So if you're listening to this podcast and you basically do, let's say you do cardio, you go in and you do a treadmill work, or you do an elliptical trainer, and then you hit some machines. In that case, I want you to still have the same strength level that we're recommending here. This applies to the general population across the board.
Right.
And we believe as coaches that barbell training is the number one methodology to reach that. Now, there are other ways to get stronger, but if you're doing on a machine, let's say, 2 times your body weight, and you've got mechanical advantage of the machine, it's a leg press, then it's not really 2 times your body weight. Now, you're stronger than maybe the general population, but there's nothing like barbell training in its purest form and its ability to translate the weight that you're moving on the bar to real life. That's why we love it. That's why we're recommending it to you. And that's why we're saying for most of the general population, strong is never strong enough.
Yeah. So, it's January. You might be sitting there rebalancing your actual 401k, thinking about your allocation to stocks and bonds and all that good stuff. Maybe it's time to rethink your allocation of strength training in your program too.
So balance things out a little bit.
Yeah. And build up that 401k. So, well, thanks guys for joining 40 Fit Radio again. Thanks for joining the 40 Fit Nation. As always, come see us at 40fit.com. On Facebook, we're at 40 Fit Masters Community, and on Instagram, we're at 40 Fit Radio. You can always check out Deaton and his adventures. Check out his powerlifting, his videos from the recent strength lifting meet at DL Deaton on Instagram, or you can see me at Marmalade Cream.
Man, it's great to have you guys today. Thanks for joining the 40 Fit Nation and joining our family here at 40 Fit Radio. Take care.